listen, really try to listen to what your heart is saying and make choices from that place.
I'm Amy Jo Martin. Welcome to the Why Not Now show. You know that thing you've been thinking about doing? Yeah, that one. Why not now? Have you ever actually taken the time to ask yourself, what's stopping me? Let's talk it through. This is your chance to give that idea the attention it deserves and take action. Each episode, I have a chat with a fascinating person, from entrepreneurs to athletes, celebrities, my parents, rocket scientists, and all walks of life. We talk through a critical time when they've asked themselves, why not now? We dissect that day or even that moment, step by step. As many of you know, I used to live on a boat in San Diego. As I was learning to captain the boat, I quickly learned that there are very few female captains out there. So one day, early on in taking my captain lessons, I was pulling the 44-foot boat into its slip in what I recall as Wizard of Oz winds. Well, several of the seasoned skippers that were docked nearby thought this would be interesting to watch me pull this boat in. I was their entertainment. They're on the dock, lawn chairs, beer in their hand, and I'm stressing out at the helm, trying to maneuver without bow thrusters, which I wish I had. I must say I did pull Renegade, that's the name of the boat, into the slip like I had done it many times, and I was so grateful because I didn't know how that was going to net out. Well, the same day, I decided to do a search for some inspiration. So I Googled female captains online. I came across Captain Liz Clark, and I immediately fell in love with this woman. She was sailing the world with her cat, Amelia, also known as Tropicat, and I followed her journey daily on Instagram. She gave me the motivation to keep learning, respect the sea, and also she reminded me to have fun along the way. Well, today, Captain Liz Clark is on the show. I could not be more excited. It's a bit of a dream come true. She's done what many of us have only imagined to do. She's chosen a journey far from comfort and security. And today she shares what she learned from her internal and external voyage of 20,000 nautical miles in search of surf and self. More than 10 years ago, Liz Clark set out from Santa Barbara and she headed south. She didn't know how long she'd be on this voyage. She knew she just wanted to sail. And she also wanted to find surf. She almost became a professional surfer, but decided to sail instead. When Liz was 9, she and her family sailed down into Mexico for 7 months. And that's when she knew what she wanted to do when she got older. She followed that dream, and she tells this story in her recent book, Swell. When I was living on the boat in San Diego, I was in a bit of a transition. I didn't know what I was going to do next. And the fact that I get to speak with Captain Liz Clark right now is amazing. And it just goes to show that you can pretty much do anything that you can think up. We tackle the most taboo topics on the Why Not Now show. Oftentimes, you're hearing guests share things they've never shared before. In the spirit of things we don't typically talk about, you should know that the Why Not Now show is supported by Poo-Pourri. Yep, the original before you go toilet spray. It's magic. My friends at Poo-Pourri have literally taken the smell out of you know what. This pure blend of essential oils stops bathroom odor before it begins. Visit poopourri.com, and Why Not Now listeners get 20% off with code WHYNOTNOW. That's all one word. Also, you can now get Poo-Pourri at Target. Liz, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Great. How are you doing?
I'm great, and it's such a treat to have you on the show. And I've been following your tracks for some time, and we'll get to that. But before we do, let's dive in. Can you tell me about a time when you had to ask yourself, why not now? And you had a big decision to make.
Yes. So I think the biggest why not now moment of my life came when I was 22 years old. I was walking through the Santa Barbara Harbor, and at the time I'd finished college at UC Santa Barbara, and I'd been dreaming of trying to do this sailing voyage that I'd been thinking about ever since I was a little kid. I wanted to take a long distance voyage, and I'd had a couple failed crewing jobs right out of school, and I was pretty down in the dumps and thinking that it wasn't going to be possible. And I ran into a retired professor in my field of environmental studies who I knew through the program at UCSB. And when I ran into him that day, he basically asked me, Lizzie, I'm looking for someone to sail my boat around the world. Would you be interested? And so this was my big why not now moment. This was like, I'd always wanted to do this, but then I was actually faced with the idea of doing it on my own and being the captain of this ship and taking on this responsibility of this agreement that we eventually made, that he would give me this boat and set it up for me to go sailing. But then I actually had to go do it, and so it took me a couple of weeks to kind of commit to the idea. But after dreaming about this, for so long, it just really felt like this was more than luck, and I had to take the chance to try it. So I went for it.
Yeah. Wow.
It's shaped my life ever since. It's allowed me to live a life very much from my values, and see things and learn things, and have this amazing experience that I may have never had if I had said no to that opportunity.
It's amazing how the universe teed that one up for you, and you had the dream for so long. So if we were to kind of dissect the decision-making time frame and that process a little bit, did you kind of just know that you would end up doing it, but you had to kind of logically think it through and kind of get your feet under you with the decision? Or did you really debate, should I, shouldn't I? Because I think there's sometimes we're in two different scenarios.
It was interesting because I think this happens to me often. I'm not a very efficient decision maker, but as soon as you get confronted with actually having the opportunity that you want, then you question whether it's really what you want, and you see the side of the other things that maybe you could do if you went the other direction. And I really like to think all those things through thoroughly. And, at the time I was, I could have also possibly taken the route. I could have pursued professional surfing. And so this was like a big fork in the road. I either did one or the other. And, but when I really boiled it down, I knew that this was just what really was encompassed my goals, my life goals, and my lifestyle goals so much deeper than continuing to surf in contests. And so, I had to look at kind of the long-term picture and say, gosh, if I do this right, I can really, I didn't envision doing it for a decade like I have, but at the time I kind of thought, this is something that's going to fulfill this lifelong dream that I've had, and I've just got to give it a try. No matter how far I get, why not just give it my all, and if I fail, then so be it. But yeah, just a small period where I had to kind of, really decide to commit my heart to it, because the process of getting the boat ready, took me away. There was a lot of sacrifices during that time. to get to the actual sailing and surfing dream. It took almost 3 years
Oh, wow.
to ready the boat, and that process was grueling and not always fun, So the time I spent between when he asked me that question and when I returned and found him on the docks and said, yes, I want to do this, it was just processing the sacrifices and risks that I was going to have to take to commit to this big
Yeah.
dream.
And then it actually took 3 years. So there's a lot of time to probably be questioning or potentially second guessing. But
yes.
What I love about this notion is that you thought you had to choose one or the other, professional surfing or going on this voyage. And in a way you did, but you were able to, still surf and go and find these areas that weren't populated and amazing waves. And you still were able to fulfill that side of things without competing. And ironically, I just interviewed
Definitely
Laird Hamilton this week, who
wow.
never was a professional surfer either, technically, in the circuit. And it's just such an innovative way to pursue that thing that you love. So here you are. I mean, you've now written a book called Swell, which is the name of your boat as well, which is awesome. And I learned what that means, which is pretty cool too. It means happiness, growth, and waves, right? So good job naming that. That's pretty rad. But when you set out when you set out on the voyage, I've heard you say you weren't really planning to go alone, but then of course you ended up having most of this entire process has been alone. Can you talk a little bit about what made you decide to go ahead and become more solo after having crew and friends join you on these various trips, and then just deciding that now you want to do it on your own?
Yeah, it's funny. As I set out and as I was preparing for the 3 years it took, I was just thinking there was no way I was going to do it alone. I was I think I was pretty afraid of even the idea of being alone, not just out on the ocean, but kind of not having spent a lot of time alone at all in my younger life. It was something that I finally knew that I needed to do to be able to kind of face things in myself that I wanted to work on. And I just knew after a period of time that I'd gained confidence as a captain with a bunch of, different friends and family that had come down to visit. I saw that I could captain the boat on my own. And I just knew that there was no better place to do that soul searching that I needed to do and learn myself and learn to love myself. And that was just something I knew that I needed to do. At one point, I just couldn't ignore that little voice inside of me anymore. And so I went for it. And it was one of the most liberating decisions I've ever made was, just getting to know myself and growing to know that I enjoyed my own company and that I actually I'm kind of an introvert actually and really enjoy my alone time very deeply now.
I was thinking about how there's so much conversation and adoption of meditation these days, and people just saying how valuable it is just to spend a few minutes by yourself in your own presence, and how so many of us have a hard time with that. Well, with you, I mean, you're days on end in the middle of the ocean by yourself. Did it take some getting used to, I'm assuming? I mean, was it kind of really hard at first, or yeah?
In fact, because I'd spent so much time back to back with people, by the time I made the decision, I was actually craving alone time and being less intimidated as a captain at that point. I was able to, really embrace the feeling of being alone, and it felt really great, almost straight off the bat. Even though I had been intimidated by it, and it was actually quite surprising to me how quickly I adapted to enjoying being alone. So that was pretty cool.
It's amazing. And when I first learned about you, I had just moved on to a boat and had was learning how to captain, not a sailboat and nothing like you've done. I mean, we take the boat out into San Diego Bay or go what I call bamping over by Coronado's boat camping, just drop anchor for the night.
Yeah.
But to me, it was scary, right? And learning how to pull it into the slip, and it was very high, and it almost kind of acted like a kite at times, trying to pull it in, and it was just intimidating. And there was this
boats
moment
around and all the possible damage you could do,
but much different. And so I come across, I'm like, who are I hadn't seen any female captains where we were at this marina in San Diego, and there were a lot of older captains that would there was one time where they would pull up their lawn chairs and watch me park this thing almost as entertainment. They kind of had their beers and they were actually there, I think, to help in case I needed help with the lines or something. But I was like, okay, I need some inspiration. And I come across you and Tropicat, Amelia. This was probably 2015-ish. And it was like this, whoa, how legit. You're in the South Pacific or you're over at Polynesian Islands and you're by yourself with your cat. And I was just wowed. So to get to talk to you right now is a huge treat. But where I'm going with this is when did you get Tropicat? When did you get Amelia?
Yeah, that was another good why not now moment for me.
Was it?
Yeah, because I love animals and I'd, constantly seen strays and come across animals that could have used a good home during my whole voyage. But at the time when I came across Amelia, it was I think it was 2013, the end of 2013. And I was really in a time where I needed some companionship, but maybe not the humankind as much.
Uh-huh.
And and I ran across Amelia and she just captured my heart right away. She just had this spirit of bravado that was just so hard to pass up, so hard to ignore. And she didn't have a good home at the time, so I decided I would take her and see if I could find a better home for her, since I wasn't sure that living on the boat would be the right thing for a cat. And I'm so nomadic and change my mind all the time, and I'm off traveling, and I just figured I would look for a home that was more stable for her. But I never found anyone who wanted to take her, and little by little she grew on me, and we found a balance of how to kind of suit her needs on the boat by being able to go to land almost every day and let her climb trees and run around, and we'd take walks together. And I'm so glad that I took that risk of taking taking her on, taking the responsibility of having a pet, because she brought so much love, and she opened my mind in so many new ways. And so I was really glad I listened to my instinct that morning and decided to bring her with me.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And she seemed to be kind of like the little mascot. I mean, the photos, there's one photo, I just remember scrolling when I found you, and I think I looked at every Instagram photo you had ever posted because I was so intrigued, and of her watching the dolphins from the side of the boat as you're out on the water, and she's just like looking at them, and you can see the shot's so perfect. But yeah, it's fascinating to see. It seems like you're following too, and the unfortunate news of her not passing away. Was it end of last year?
Yes, beginning of this year.
Beginning of this year. Oh, wow. When I saw that news, and I'm so sorry for your loss, I started crying. And then you see the outpouring of people who are following from afar, virtually, that you probably have never met. And So when
It was
you...
incredible
go
to
ahead.
watch the trust that I don't know quite why. I mean, she was such a beautiful cat, but the way the public embraced her was so incredible. She, I think that just the fact that she was so out of a normal cat's comfort zone, and she and I built this trust that, you know, she was going to be safe with me, even though these things were really different than what her first 6 months of land life were like. It was just so beautiful to see how she captured people's hearts and, you know, made people want to step even further out of their own comfort zones too. So as hard as the loss has been for me, I don't regret a second of taking her into my life, and she was just such a blessing in every way.
What's so cool is I could feel that bond that the two of you had just through the photos and the images, and the fact that a cat would stick with you, beyond your go on to land for the day or for part of the day, and she's in the middle of this, area where she could run off and never really do that and still stick around you is just amazing. So when I have this, I can hear your all the wildlife there on Hawaii behind you and the
Sorry.
roosters. No,
Chickens.
it's or chickens. It's awesome. It sets the ambiance.
Okay.
So when there's like this big curiosity and question in my mind that I'm trying to understand, and that is, at what point did you feel comfortable enough to just be out at sea for days, weeks by yourself and know you could handle what the ocean would bring or the weather would bring? I know it's a gradual thing. It has to be, but how did you learn? And just were there thresholds where you just feel like you graduated certain days because you got through something, or how did that work?
Yeah, I think I was really lucky because the ocean kind of handed me, the ocean or the universe or however you choose to look at it, but it kind of handed me these challenges in small doses starting at the beginning, and I was able to, overcome these things one by one. The first time something broke when I was out on my own, trying to figure out how to fix it, and the first time I was in a really windy day where I had to figure out how to reef the sails and learn that, okay, my boat can handle this, strength of wind, and it's totally fine once I reduce the sail, and, all these new challenges that the ocean brought on and continues to bring on because it never ends. But the more I, conquered these little things one by one, the more confidence I had that I would continue to be able to affront whatever came up on these passages. And so, I gained that confidence over time. But at the same time, I think it's important to understand that I still feel nervous out there, and I still have a very healthy respect for what I do, because I know it takes, full concentration and preparation and prevention of problems, and really being fully present with what you're doing, because you can lose everything in an instant out there. So I think, I've grown very comfortable with my boat and with being out, on the open sea. But there's also this other side that has to stay completely vigilant and on my toes in order to, succeed and get to the point B that you're trying to make it to.
Yeah, and that's where I imagine you have to have that confidence, but you also probably have to have that humility and the balance of those two, because I just imagine a dance like a groove, and you're constantly, I got
Yes,
this, but I'm not going to get cocky.
exactly. I think that's really that's what's kept me alive and what's kept me safe through the years.
We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Hi, everyone. If you are digging this podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes. It just takes a moment and it means a ton to us. Also, after recording more than 100 episodes, I've created a bit of a cheat sheet on the top 5 things I've learned from renegades and how they get from idea to action, from dreaming to doing. I will email you the downloadable PDF when you subscribe to my newsletter. Just head to amyjomartin.com and click on Connect with Me. You write about and share this story where I think you're still at the beginning of your journey, and you sailed from like Southern California down to Panama and then the Galapagos Islands. And so at some point in that realm, you were with your mom, right, on this 22-day at sea voyage. And will you talk about when you hit some weather and the swells and kind of
Yes.
talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So it was just so cool that my mom decided to cross the ocean with me anyways, because sailing was never really her thing. It was more my dad's thing. I did grow up on sailboats and, learn this from a kid, but, my mom was always kind of uneasy with the ocean, and she was never the one in charge. So when she decided to do this with me, it was just incredible. I was so excited to be able to share this dream with her, because it was always my dad who was a little more excited about me going out and doing this. And so I just, really wanted everything to go perfect for her and to be just smooth sailing. And we're only about 5 into the voyage, and we start to see these swell increase and the wind increase. And apparently there was a big storm off Peru that we weren't right in the middle of the storm, but we were getting these big ocean swells, and some of the wind and weather that was coming from that storm. And so, only a few days into this enormous passage we're taking on, it was just awful, just so uncomfortable. And, I was just doing everything I could do to try to make the motion of the boat less, of a roller coaster ride for her. Poor mom, she did not come out of the cabin for 5 straight days. She didn't even want to look at the ocean. Thank goodness she doesn't get seasick. But it was just a really frustrating couple of days for me. I think it took us it took about 6 days for the weather to calm back down. And it was just grueling to try to live and even just do small things in that kind of weather. It's really challenging. So, but after that, everything seemed easy. So, in a way, it was a blessing. After we got through it.
The story is, I love too that, well, first of all, one detail of the story that really put it into perspective was you said it was kind of like living in a Category 10 earthquake for 5 days, the way that you were moving so much. And but then on the flip side, it sounded like you really got to bond with your mom and have an awesome connection with that time together. So that's really beautiful too. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, after the storm kind of passed and things smoothed out, we had a ton of time to get to know each other. I'd been such a busy, driven teenager, and I was pretty terrible through my teens. And so, just having time in my 20s to really ask my mom questions about her life and get to know her as a person versus a mom was just such a special thing. And I came away understanding her in such a different way and appreciating her so much more. And I let go of a lot of the little things that, you hold on to from your childhood and that can block you towards, being your best self. So that was really such a huge blessing and gift for me to have her come and share that. She crossed the biggest stretch of ocean on the planet with me.
That's amazing. That's pretty special. What a trooper, too, for someone who's not a huge fan of the ocean.
Yeah.
So
she gets points for life for that one.
Heck yeah. So as I I saw that you're writing the book and you have this amazing partner in Patagonia. And a few months ago, or just even, gosh, two or less, you start promoting. So you're back on land and you have all of these tour stops, right? And you're talking about your book. And I've just wondered, oh my gosh, I wonder how she's acclimating and how this is going from the world you've been living in for 12 years or so to now being back with traffic and, in these busy cities. And how was that transition?
Um, at the beginning, when I used to come back, I'd come back every year and a half, 2 years, and visit during the 12 years I've been out. And at the beginning, it was really challenging. I was seeing the world in a whole new way. I was understanding that, all these things that I thought were needs in my life were really not that important. And I was just questioning the way modern society lives in the US. And so when I'd come back, I'd find myself frustrated a lot, just looking around and thinking, we don't need this, or this is so silly how we do this in the modern world. But over time, I grew to understand that, these two worlds are just separate, and you have to just kind of accept that this one is like this, and that my sailing world is different. And so, when I came back for this tour, this kind of travel was just more intense than I've ever tried to take on, this kind of land travel, I guess. But I just tried to approach it like I would approach a passage at sea. And it was a big challenge for me because I was out of my comfort zone in so many ways. Being in a big city where, for me, it's that alone time and that time with nature where I really reconnect with myself and with, the universe. And then public speaking is something that I just totally dread. And I had to affront and take on, and I did 24 book tour stops. I think it was really hard and challenging, but I wanted to prove to myself I could do it. And what the coolest part, what kept me going really, was all the love and enthusiasm that I found in every single stop. I had people that came out who drove really far or just made things happen to get to these events that, I know everyone's busy and has things going on, but people showed me so much love, and that really kept me going through the delirium and fatigue of trying to get around the country in less than 5 weeks.
I can imagine. And I saw one of your posts about the first stop. I think it was Hawaii, and you gave your first, talk and talked about the book. And then I think you said something like, I can't do this. I might have to fake an illness or something. This is not,
Yeah.
This is totally out of your comfort zone, which I guess it just goes to show, because for some people, they couldn't imagine what you do and what you've been doing for the last 12 years. Talk about out of comfort zones. But then, in some other cases, it's all relative. We have our things that we are comfortable with and not. So, and now what's next? I mean, as far as it sounds like you're in a stage where you're developing your next dream. And where is Swell? Is Swell in Hawaii with you?
Swell is in French Polynesia still.
Oh, okay.
I'm just here in Hawaii visiting my mom, and trying to rest a little before I go back to the boatyard and the boat projects and all of those things. I just, the book tour took a lot of energy, and just even getting this book to press, the last 2 years have been really intense, between just living on the boat and, the daily routines of life that take more time than living in a house, and trying to get this project finished. It just took so much energy. I feel like I've been sprinting for 2 years straight. So it's really been nice. I've been here for about a week, and trying to take some time to just, calm down, relax, get away boat projects and digital devices and restore myself a bit. And but at the same time, it's tough because, when you're so goal oriented, and I've had my focus has been to get this book done, and before that it was live this sailing dream, and now I'm at this point where, I have a lot of decisions to make about what's next, and I can be kind of hard on myself. And I've got everybody asking me this question, what are you doing next? What are you doing next? And I really don't know yet. I know there's certain things that I want to do. I really want to, there's always going to be more adventures. I'm just an adventurous soul, but right now I just don't know quite what they're going to be. And I'm not sure if I want to take some time to be on land a little bit more, or to find a bit more balance, because I feel like I tipped myself so hard to get this project finished that I need to just give a little more love to my body and to my mind and slow down a bit. So I'm trying not to just feel like I have to know all the answers at once, and just take a little time to let the dust settle and recalibrate and figure it out one day at a time.
I love that you're so honest, and the fact that you share that, because I think we tend to want to just provide answers just because people think, that we have something else up our sleeve next, or XYZ.
Yeah.
You feel like you should because you have this amazing trajectory, and it's important for people to hear. It's just you've gone through some really interesting rev ups and slow downs with the beginning of your voyage and having so many people visiting. Probably pretty intense. It's the beginning, and then it sounds like you had this kind of more peaceful interim where you were solo, and you're visiting all these islands, and then it just ramped up again. So it's finding life's pace again, I imagine, it's just adjusting in itself. And that's cool that you're not quite sure yet. And that's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, it'll come.
Oh,
It'll come.
It totally will. Absolutely. Do you know how many islands you visited over the course of the 12 years? Were you counting?
Oh gosh, I haven't been counting, but it's got to be close to 100. I would think.
And top three-ish places that you have visited?
Mm-hmm. Mexico is just always in my heart. I love Oaxaca. The whole state just was so wild and so welcoming. And then Panama, I love the western islands of Panama that I was able to cruise around in my boat. Beautiful area. There's a national, I think it's a World Heritage Site now, called Coiba Island, that just spectacular place. And then Kiribati, the islands I visited there were just unforgettable. So different than anywhere I'd ever been, and just feel like you fall off the page of the world,
Amazing. It sounds like that was a very special place to you, just learning more about in the story. What's one lesson, Liz, that you feel like you're learning over and over?
There's a lot of them, but let's see. I'm, as much as I've learned to listen to my heart and my intuition, I think those challenges never stop, and the universe always presents you with something new that's you need to feel in deeper to yourself to understand what your heart's really saying. And so I think that's something that I continued to learn over and over, is to just feel in deeper to what my next my heart is saying. And it's kind of my lesson that I'm working with right now in terms of trying to kind of choose my next course in life, even though I have my whole identity of Captain Liz, and the sailing trip is really so who I am. I'm all wrapped up in that, but I'm trying to feel whether my heart is calling me towards a new and different experience right now. And sometimes it's so easy to, stay on these paths that we've carved for ourselves. I have this big following of people who love sailing and love, what I've been doing. But I think my heart's calling me towards something new. So, that's scary. But I really have to feel into that and stay true to all these things that I've, hoping other people are getting from my book, which is, really try to listen to what your heart is saying and make choices from that place. So I'm trying to keep doing that in my own life too.
And that's actually that was going to be my next question is how do you listen? So, with all the people that I get to talk to on this show, one of my number one questions is, how do you sharpen your intuition? And everybody, has a different strategy for that or just way of life to continue with that ongoing process and practice. Do you have any little tricks or things you find yourself doing to really tune in and listen?
Yeah, I think for me, it's alone time in nature where I really start to hear that voice louder. Meditating in those circumstances, I feel is even a deeper way to tap into it too. Just sitting and being quiet and hearing your breath and trying to be aware of what little things might be showing up in your reality to point you in one direction or the other. And then also, looking for the signs that are appearing in your reality throughout the day, just trying to stop and be aware a few times a day of, what's going on. And when you are more aware, I feel like those signs end up becoming more and more easy to see. But that's definitely something I use to kind of help guide me when I'm a little bit unsure of which direction to go.
Those are great tips. I imagine the situations you've been in and the kind of pretty intense at times, having a pretty clear, strong voice of what to do and how to react is it's not just a tool, but it's a necessity, right? So given your lifestyle and environment, I imagine you've been really harnessed that GPS, internal GPS. But I love to hear that you say it's a constant practice, and that makes sense. I have a few just rapid fire questions left for you if you're game.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So what's your all-time favorite book?
Maybe Bernard Moitessier, The Long Way.
Okay. Awesome.
It's my favorite sailing book.
And are you reading anything right now? Are you trying to take a break?
I actually am. I'm so excited to get to read again after doing the book was so intense. I couldn't get through a book for the last couple of years, but I'm reading Kiss the Ground by Josh Tickle, I think his name is.
Are you enjoying
Josh
it?
Tickle. Yeah, I'm loving it.
Okay.
It's so much of what I've been so interested in diet and how to eat for the environment and the climate. So this book is really cool. It's affirming a lot of what I already kind of understood, but giving me so much more detail about it.
Super cool. And what keeps you up at night?
What keeps me up at night? Trying to keep my lifestyle going often on the computer. I end up doing a lot of work, and then I like the night because it's quiet and not missing out on any surf or things like that. Laying in bed, maybe what keeps me up at night thinking, probably just decisions I have to make about like naming the book, things like that, where, big decisions to make. So,
and this is this is such an appropriate question for you, but pirates or ninjas, who is tougher and why?
I think pirates are pretty tough. Ninjas don't deal with the ocean quite as much, I don't think, but so I'd go with pirates.
Yeah, I can imagine you've got some firsthand knowledge on some of the stuff they have to deal with.
Yeah.
And the final question, what advice would you give to your younger self?
I would tell my younger self to not be so hard on myself and to appreciate who I am and relax a little more and try to be present and not worry so much about where I'm going.
Great advice. It's funny because that kind of comes back full circle. You can tap into that right now of where you are.
Totally.
You know? We love it when that happens.
these traits that are hard to shake in our character, you know?
That's awesome. Well, Liz, Captain Liz, this has been an honor, and I am so grateful that you spent the time with us. And thank you for sharing your journey as well.
Thank you so much, Amy Jo. It's a pleasure to talk and wish you all the best.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the show. Hit me up on social media to let me know what you think. I'm at Amy Jo Martin on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And I want to hear your Why Not Now moments so I can share them on the show. Just send me a note to whynotnow@amyjomartin.com. For show notes and other offers, you can visit amyjomartin.com/whynotnow. And while you're there, don't forget to sign up for my email newsletter for exclusive content and announcements. A big thanks to Rock Salt Music for all of the tunes by the talented John Coggins. And of course, a hat tip to Richard Brewer for editing and producing the show. I'll see you next time. And until then, why not now?